Hey guys, good morning. So I'm supposed to be making Maggie Murphy Manifestation Mailbag Marathon Monday right now, but in the spirit of the prioritizing of life that I recently talked about on a video, the 4 Ds, do, delay, delegate, and discard, unfortunately that video has gotten moved into the delay pile. There is a semi blocking my access to Panera, however, hopefully temporarily, very temporarily. So I wanted to, since I'm stuck in a parking lot, I can't get into the Panera parking lot to get my drink, I wanted to make a video about a comment that somebody left me. And this is this is going to be, I think, a singular video of this kind, because the attention that I paid to this comment is the last of its kind. This was what made me really have to turn the comments off in the past. I've had my comments on for 2 weeks, and it's taken about 13 days for this certain type of person to come out of the woodwork. And that type of person is this is never going to work. My life is always going to suck. These are just, they're energy vampires. I've come to understand this. Energy vampires, I hope that you find your way out of it, but for now, you are just taking from other people, and so it's taken a couple weeks for these people to find my comment section and start to leave comments blaming everybody in the world for their problems except themselves. And so I found myself last night, about 20 minutes after this comment got left, coming to and saying, wow, that's 20 minutes of my life I'm never getting back that I should not have wasted thinking about what this person said. It was perfectly formed little trap that I fell into, and I promise it's not going to happen again. But basically, it ended up being kind of a good thing, because it made me think about the topic that the person brought up, and I realized that I think it's important to actually make a video talking about this specifically. I'm sure I have elsewhere on this channel, but I think it's good to just bring this up and hash it out a little bit. And that is the idea of persisting in a manifestation. Persisting is not a word I generally use. That is like a Neville Goddard online cult word. That's not a word that is something I just whip out regularly. So, this commenter basically said that 5 years ago, I guess. By the way, today is my 5-year anniversary of being on YouTube. YouTube popped me up a screen just now. But basically, this person said 5 years ago, I told them anything is possible, which it is, and to just persist, in parentheses, in brackets, endlessly, editor's note, endlessly, I guess, because I'm certain that I never told anybody to persist in anything endlessly. In fact, I think throughout this channel, I've been pretty clear that you should be seeing, if you don't see a man's circumstances reveal his character. That's a quote from As a Man Thinketh, James Allen, and it's the truth. Your world will reflect the changes in you, and it doesn't take like 10 years. There was somebody on Reddit a while ago, I'm pretty sure I made a video specifically about this, but who had been persisting in a specific person manifestation about somebody that they had been with, or a specific actual person. And that had been going on for 6 years at the time. And this was years ago, and I really hope it's not still going on, but this person had been living as if that person were their wife for like 6 years. And that is not where you want to go with this. And so, I thought about it a little bit last night. It's good that this was brought up, because I have a topic for a video for today. And I think this is kind of not that difficult to tease apart. You should see results from your intentions in the in the 3D world. But you have to understand that you, your body, your brain, your thoughts, all that stuff, that's part of the 3D world. So sometimes you can persist in a change, and if all you're doing is looking to the outside world, like your bank account balance or your relationship status, or a relationship with somebody else being really different, you know, or a specific person showing up, if you're only looking for those kinds of evidence, then I think you're going to get pretty confused pretty fast. Have you changed? If the answer is no, if you are, for the most part, the exact same person you were when you started your intention, your manifestation, and nothing in the outer world has changed, you didn't do anything. Nothing happened. And you should absolutely not persist in whatever you've been doing. If there is nothing that's any different, if you don't feel any different, if you don't find habitual thought patterns are changing, if you don't find yourself prompted to do something different in your life, or examine something more closely, if nothing has happened, then you didn't do anything. Because just having some thoughts about something doesn't do anything. The thoughts and the imaginal experience, if you're going that route, they have to do something. You have to feel a shift. Something needs to be different in order for something out there to be different. Okay? So that's why I think this is I'm sure this person had a specific person issue, because literally 100% of the time, the people that have this type of attitude are obsessed with a specific person. That's another thing I've learned over the last 5 years. If you like read, you know, the Neville Goddard specific person subreddit, or you found some YouTube people who are, you know, raking it in on the specific person topic, of which there are now many. I don't know if they're raking it in, but there are a lot of people trying to make money off the specific person thing, which I think is pretty slimy, honestly. If you've listened to these people and they've told you to live your whole life as though you are this person's wife or husband, to think every thought as though they are your, you know, consider them in every way, if that's what you're doing, and you're literally just like living in a fantasy, I'm really sorry, but you've probably been led astray. Okay, that stuff's all kind of Neville Goddard inspired. So if you're coming at this from something that's Neville Goddard inspired, and you haven't read Neville Goddard, that's not smart in the first place. But let me just tell you what Neville Goddard says to do for all of this stuff. He says you fall asleep in the feeling of something. So I think his example in his books, it's been a minute since I read that stuff, but I think his example was, you fall asleep imagining you have a wedding ring on your finger, and you can feel it, like in your imagination, you touch it, you can feel the ring, you feel the satisfaction of having been married, having gotten what you wanted romantically, I guess. You fall asleep in that feeling, and you don't do it forever. You do it fully, so that you have this full feeling experience of something. I used this analogy back in the day, way back in the day, with the falling asleep in the feeling thing, because when I started reading Neville Goddard, I did this briefly about some stuff. This isn't how I normally do stuff, but in the name of trying new stuff, I did this. And so here's a good analogy, because I love chocolate cake with chocolate frosting. And so this is a really easy analogy. Imagine that you have been wanting chocolate cake for 6 months and you haven't been able to get it for some reason. You just can't have it. You don't have the money. It's not available. The type of cake you want isn't available. Something like that. You haven't been able to get it. And then finally, you get your big, delicious chocolate cake with chocolate frosting. And you eat a piece of it, and it is so delicious. It is just, it fulfills every chocolate cake desire that you've had. And then the next day, you have another piece, and it is still so good. And then the day after that, you have another piece, and it's really good. And then the day after that, you have another piece, and, you know, it tastes good, but it's not doing what it was doing for you on days 1 and 2, and even maybe 3. It's just, you're like, okay, this is pretty good, but, you know. And then by the 5th or 6th day, you've had enough chocolate cake. And it's, you know, maybe now you want something else. Maybe now your focus has gone somewhere else. You want a different food. And chocolate cake, while you still love it, you have been satisfied. And so you drop it. Okay, that is what you should be doing. If you don't have that experience with the Neville Goddard imaginal techniques, you're doing it wrong. It's that simple. When you imagine the thing you want, it should fulfill you in that moment. You should be experiencing it to that degree. Now, if you can't imagine stuff because you can't see stuff in your mind, I don't know, you do this some other way, and you're gonna have to figure out how you would do this some other way. But for most people, the idea of this is to fulfill yourself for the thing that is lacking. And that's why he says, you know, you do this for 3 nights or 4. Well, I think he says a short period of time. And then you are satisfied. I think he refers to it also as being impregnated. You can't be a little bit pregnant. You're done. The seed is planted, and then it will grow. If you're going at this via the mystical Neville Goddard route, and you're not, you know, you're just trying to get something purely through imagination, purely shifting something through imagination. I don't do this. That's not really what this channel is about at this point. But if you don't get fulfilled, if you're still in a state of lack, if you're still wanting, and you're doing this from a place of trying to make something happen via your imagination, rather than actually having the experience that you're supposed to have, that is supposed to fulfill you, it's supposed to scratch that itch, then you're just obsessing. I mean, if you're just continuing to do this and continuing to think about it, and as this person in the comments said, persisting in a delusion, well, you're going to get exactly what would be expected from that, which is like nothing. In fact, it's probably going to make it worse, because the more you think about something you don't have, the more you put your focus on something you don't have, the more it's a thing. I mean, Esther Hicks talks about this, and like, think about it through the lens of your own life. Like, does something that you're upset about get better the more you think about it and mull it over? Things get better when, like, you go to bed and sleep it off overnight and wake up the next morning. By the way, this is not good Neville Goddard advice, but because he says to go to sleep in a feeling. But, you know, the point I'm trying to make is when there's a disruption to that focus, that's when things start to get a little better. So for a lot of people, an 8-hour night of sleep, which I haven't gotten in like 5 years, but for me, a 5-hour night of sleep will reset things. And if there's a train that's running, it loses its momentum overnight. And so the point I'm trying to make is the more you focus on something that you're lacking or think about it, the bigger it becomes. And you know, this is pretty much true across the board. So manifestation is not about persisting in a delusion. Not at all. It has nothing to do with being delusional. Any use of that word should be taken very lightly. Like my friend Cecilia Hendricks, I will link to her channel below. I think we've used the term delusional, you know, delusional positivity and stuff like that. I don't know. I know we've used that word, but You're not supposed to actually be living in a delusion. The idea is that you shift mentally, and the mental energy that you're existing with changes, which changes you on autopilot, which changes a ton of little subtle things throughout the day. It changes your perception so that you can see things that were right there that you didn't see before. That's what these mental shifts do. I mean, I can't explain the magic of it, but that's what they do, I think, in boring, like, human terms. So if you're focused on something specific, and if none of that stuff applies to you and you're not being delusional about something, I really don't think I've ever recommended any of that here anywhere. I think that you should look at manifestation as something that creates a universal change for you, and not focus on some specific, like, out in your visual field. It's like you can see everything, and in your life, all the aspects of your life are there. And if you're focusing on one little pinpoint thing you don't like, I just don't think that makes any sense. Something more global and universal has created that manifestation that you don't like in your life. I mean, think of all the thoughts and feelings and subtle action, inspired action. Inspired action doesn't always have to be a good thing, by the way. Inspired action is just what you're doing essentially on autopilot from your state of mind. Imagine how much of that stuff had to happen, like how much of that was growing underground before this shit thing in your life popped up and started sprouting. There's a lot under there that's supporting any bad thing that you have going on, or any undesirable to you thing that you have going on. So I don't think you should ever give up. I don't think you should ever stop persisting about the areas of your life that you want fulfillment in. And I think that if you have a specific thing that you really want, and it's like really honed in on the specifics, it has to be this exact thing. If you don't have an accompanying feeling with that desire, like, this is meant to be, I'm going to get this, I don't think you should try to generate that feeling about a specific thing. I think sometimes there are specific things, and you really want this specific thing for a reason, and there is an accompanying feeling of, nobody's going to tell me I can't have this. And, when you have that going on, you're not going to give a shit what I or anyone am saying on YouTube. It's that simple. And if you don't have that, if you have a bunch of people saying things and then you doubt yourself, or you, against your better judgment, persist in something, that's a bad idea. I hope that made sense. But, for the things that are specific that people really go after, and they're like, I always knew I was going to get that. Like people who end up, famous or really successful, and they're just like, I always knew I was going to get this. I always knew I was going to do this. If you have that feeling towards anything, then yeah, I would say persist in that. And you're not going to be looking for my advice. It's kind of like if you have to ask the question, but I don't know. If you're in the state where you're not taking any accountability for your own life, and you heard something somewhere that sounded like snake oil, and you bought into it, and you lost a bunch of time to it. I just made a video about how I kind of did this even. You can't really blame other people for that. You should learn from that. You should learn to, be more reliant on your own judgment than that of other people. That was my lesson from it. My lesson from wasting some time entertaining some ideas that I don't think have any merit. Some good stuff came out of that for me, but otherwise, I learned a lesson, a valuable lesson from that nobody knows more than I do about me and how I work. So, I don't know. For people that are in a just a really dejected place, in a total state of victimhood, where, if something doesn't go right in their life, it's everyone else's fault. We all know people like this. I really don't think there's any helping you. You have to help yourself. You have to help yourself. Sometimes the only way out of a bad situation is a lot of mental work and physical work a lot of the time. It's that simple. So don't give up on your life. Don't give up on areas of your life where you want fulfillment just because up to this point you haven't been able to manifest anything good in those areas. But if you are living delusionally, and especially if it's focused on a specific person or a specific thing, if you have no results in the 3D, I would absolutely drop the specific desire, go deeper into what you more generally want, and start to manifest the changes in yourself that need to happen in order to support that 3D outer change. And if you're coming at this from the Neville Goddard stuff, where you're doing the imaginal acts and all that stuff, you should feel satiated within a few days. That's what he calls the Sabbath. It's where you wake up one day and you feel different and you say, I'm good. I don't need to think about this thing anymore. Something has shifted. I have fulfilled this lack in my mind, and the lack is gone. If the lack is still there, especially if you're focusing on it, you're barking up the wrong tree. And I'm going to end this here. I've been making really long videos lately. I'm going to end this here. The semi is still blocking me. I'm going to have to walk in there. It's 11 degrees out and I don't have a coat on. I hope this helps somebody. This channel has like 500 videos on it at this point, and like nearly every one of them is talking about something like important having to do with how to fix all this stuff. Like, that's the whole channel. Like, literally the whole channel. Probably whatever answer you need is here somewhere at this point. I mean, I don't pretend to be all-knowing or really good at this, but you make 500 20-minute videos. Pretty much everything's in there somewhere. But just for people that are commenting, I'm not, I was a moderator on the Neville Goddard subreddit, and I got I spent a lot of time reading through emails from people who are still blaming the world for everything. Like the very base concept of all of this is that it's all coming from you. So, I guess if you don't believe that, you don't belong here. If you haven't quite grasped that yet, that's fine. But you have to at least be open-minded to that. And once you understand that, you can't blame other people for your problems. You just can't do it. I mean, you can blame, I guess, societal, grand mental tendencies of big groups of people, I guess. You can maybe blame that for the way some things are in the world, but in your personal life, you can't blame other people for what's going on. For anything that is generally applied to a big population, there are lots of exceptions, and you could absolutely be one of them. You don't need to change something grand about the world to change your personal circumstances. You have to change yourself. Anyway, the point being, I don't have the time and energy to expend on the energy vampires. So I'm not going to hide you from my channel if you post that stuff, because I don't know, I kind of feel like I should. I don't think it's helping anybody to read that stuff. And then other people expend their energy responding to you, which is exactly what happened. I'm not going to ban you, but I'm not going to acknowledge you or respond to you either. I'm sorry. I can't do the work for you. And I've been pretty consistent throughout this whole channel because I've always just been telling you the truth, and from my perspective, and my perspective really hasn't shifted much. I mean, in the first maybe 6 months of this channel, that was like sort of post-revelatory material and material content. That was when I was sort of in the thick of it myself, with all that entertaining of other people's ideas and testing that stuff out and experimenting with it and talking about my own experience. So I don't know if some of the stuff there seems a little different, that's why, but I was always unpopular, or I should say I was always a controversial person in the online community, of which I've only ever participated in Reddit, but I was always a controversial person there because people do not want to think that they have to change or do anything in order to get what they want. They take Neville Goddard at the most face value, just the most surface possible interpretation of you don't have to do anything and you can get everything you want. The results speak for themselves, both for them and for me. So I'll just leave that here and hope that helped somebody. And for the rest of the commenters, you guys are awesome. Somebody posted, this is the most wholesome comment section I've ever seen, and it is. Like, people are so smart and insightful and appreciative, and they share their own stuff that's useful and valuable in the comments. It's great. It's pretty crazy. Anyway, have a great day.